If you're anything like me, you prefer to be on people's good side rather than their bad side. So in this video, we're gonna talk about how you can get on someone's good side using knowledge about what their personality type might be. Frank, are we just talking about manipulating people? You know what, we might be, but I'm looking at it more like we're just trying to establish trust with people. We just want people to like us so that then we can build a more meaningful rapport with them. So the way to do this, I'm gonna give you kind of like a quick shorthand to try to figure out in the moment what kind of person you're talking to, like what type they might be, and depending on what you think, how you should be approaching the conversation. But before we get into that, and speaking about shorthand, let me tell you about this video sponsor, Blinkist. Blinkist is a dope app that I have actually been using for over 6 months now that takes books, why was I searching for the word book, and condenses them down into 15-minute summaries or blinks, which you can read or listen to in podcast form. Dude, Blinkist has thousands of titles for you to choose from across a ton of different topics. Like what do we got here? History, science, nature, entrepreneurship, biography. It's like a ton of stuff here, man. Perhaps you'd like one of their very popular titles, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, or one of the ones that I've read and enjoyed, The 48 Laws of Power, which is a thick book, and so I'm glad I just listened to the 15-minute summary. I love listening to these blinks as I'm driving in the car somewhere or taking a walk. So you gotta click my special link, and the first 100 people who do so will get a free 7-day trial of Blinkist, and then 25% off your subscription after that. And yes, it is a free 7-day trial. Cancel anytime during that period. Thanks again to Blinkist for sponsoring this video. Let's get into it, how to get on the 16 personalities good side. Now, one of the first things that you can look for that I think is one of the best dividing lines between the types is, are you dealing with a thinker or are you dealing with a feeler? So start to listen to the words they're saying, and are they going more towards value judgments, like I like that, that makes me or other people feel this way, this is good, this is bad, stuff that's like, you know, more in the feelings realm? Or are they talking more like, this is how this works, this is the tool to use for the job, this is how we're gonna solve this? That's more the thinking side of stuff. And here's the thing, is like, you can get thinkers who, when you're talking to them one-on-one, can like do more feeling talk, or the other way around. Feelers who talk more in the logical realm. We're not necessarily trying to type them accurately, we're just trying to get a feel for what mode do they want to be in, thinking or feeling? Do they want to talk about the value of things, or do they want to talk about how stuff works? So if you're dealing with a feeler, or at least someone who wants to talk about feeling, lean into that and really like express your value judgments about whatever is being talked about. And like, as you're doing this with anything we're talking about today, once you think, oh, I'm dealing with X kind of type, do a little experiment. Start talking more in the feelings realm and see if they open up. Some feelers, like the introverted feelers, they want to talk more about what they like, and some, like the extroverted feelers, will want to hear more about like what you like. So try to feel that out. Ask them questions about the things that are important to them, what matters to them, and if they seem to not respond so well to that and deflect questions back to you, then maybe you start talking more about what matters to you. However, if you do hear a person you're in a conversation with start to puzzle a bit more and start to feel like, we got to solve this problem, even if you're just like hanging out at the bar and the conversation keeps turning to some kind of issue and how does this thing work, you might be dealing with the thinker. At that point, to get on their good side, you've got to play the thinking game. You've got to be thinking more about, how do I help the problem be solved, or how do I prop up what they're thinking about? How do I feed them like interesting things? And let me go less with like the sentimentality and like what I think is cool or whatever, which is more the feeling side. Now, when you're dealing with the thinkers, don't get upset if they are a little bit less polite, less concerned with doing that kind of social dance. The thinkers will really just like to kind of cut to the chase. What is the heart of the matter we're talking about? And they're not always going to want to like keep retreading on something that they've already discussed. They want to keep the discussion moving for the sake of keeping it interesting. All right, while we're here, let's stop momentarily and see if YouTube would like to show a commercial. Thanks for sitting through that. And if you're enjoying this video, hit the thumbs up button. All right, so you think you've kind of figured out feeling or thinking, are they talking about stuff that they like, that's cool, oh, that's awesome, I love that. Or are they talking about more like, that's interesting. Oh, I can see how hypothetically this thing that could do this and blah, blah, blah. I struggle to even like pretend to be a thinker. That's now you might ask yourself, am I dealing with someone who is more a sensing type or an intuitive type? And this also can help you get on their good side depending on how you steer the conversation. The sensing types, or at least people who are in that moment preferring to look at the sensing, are gonna wanna talk about the stuff and like actually real things, like things they have experienced. If they cannot actually observe it or experience it, if it is not actually real, the sensing types are going to get a bit bored. So if you think you're dealing with a sensing type, try to steer the conversation more into the real world and things that they have actually experienced. And if it does become a bit more hypothetical, still keep it in the realm of like reality rather than something like totally off the wall. Intuitive types though might get a little bored by talking about like real world stuff. They're gonna wanna think a little bit more about what's in between the lines of that and something that's a bit more projected out into the abstract world. Something that I think you'll hear a lot of times when intuitives are talking is what if X, like that whole what if thing. That is like a very intuitive, like let me project out, let me see what the possibilities are. Now, here's the thing, now that we've talked about thinking and feeling, sensing and intuition, the two middle letters, is that these are not necessarily hard and fast rules depending on the actual type of the person you're talking to, because you can get intuitive types who are like, I'd rather just talk about stuff. I'd rather just talk about the real world sensory because I do intuition all day long and I'm bored with it, man. I want to talk about the cognitive functions I don't use. We're having fun. Let's talk. It's like, that's my work. I do intuition all day. Let me do a little bit of sensing now that we're playing around, right? Or you might have a thinker who's like, I think all day. I solve problems all day. I'm burned out. I want to talk about what I like. I want to talk about the feelings. So think of it less like what type is this person and more like what kind of conversation do they want to have? Do they want to have an NF conversation that's all about the abstract stuff and what we feel and it's like maybe more some spiritual chat or whatever, or do they want to have a more SF talk? We're just talking about stuff we like in the real world. What's cool? What's popular? Or are we having a more NT talk where we're doing this logical, hypothetical, whatever, abstract talk? Or do we have a more ST talk? How do we get stuff to work in the real world? How do I fix my lawnmower? That's what we're going to talk about. And then we come to looking at J versus P, which I think that is where it's less the content of the conversation that we're looking at and more like the way that we have a conversation. Because the J types are going to want to come to a conclusion. We're discussing how we feel about something and then we come to the end and say, well, that's how we feel. This is how we should be feeling. Moving on now. Whereas the P types will want to keep things open-ended and be like, nah, we're just going to keep exploring. We're going to keep looking for new stuff that we think is cool or that we find interesting. You're also going to find that the judging types are going to be much more interested in like giving advice and stuff, and the P types less so. They just want to see what's going to happen. I think the judging types are more, they have a better idea of shoulds, I think. Like this should happen. You should do this. This is the way things should be. Whereas the P types are like, I don't know. I'm just keeping tabs on it and seeing what's happening. I'm not going to try to tell you what you should do. So that can be something to look out for. Am I talking to someone who's being a bit more of a judging type right now or someone who's a bit more perceiving. So if you're dealing with a judging type, you're gonna get more on their good side if you are helping them bring whatever you're talking about to a conclusion, to get things settled, rather than being the person who's like, oh wait, let's keep going, let's keep, talking about all the possibilities. No, the judging types want to get things settled. And if you're dealing with a perceiving type, help them kick that ball down the road continually with the conversation. Don't try to avoid coming to a conclusion. You want to just keep your options open in that conversation. I think also in general, the judgers appreciate it if you kind of chime in when they're talking about like the shoulds, what people should do when they're, doing their extroverted judging, because they want to be able to get that validation. They want to see what everyone is thinking about something. So they expect you to participate. Whereas the perceiving types, they will not appreciate as much that kind of you should do this. This is the correct value judgment. The perceiving types recognize a bit more of the subjectivity of how people feel or think. And so you just want to kind of play that more individualistic side of things. And it really just goes back to keeping things open-ended rather than trying to settle things. Thanks for watching. Check out another video right here or the whole playlist right here. Once again, check out my Linkist for Blinkist down belowest. And until next time, stay cool and attractive.